The scent of blood hung in the twilight air as Petra Quinn lifted his axe from the split log. And that was when he saw her, an orc woman, stumbling through the tree line with one hand pressed against her ribs and the other clutching something dark against her chest. He froze, muscles tensing as years of soldier's instinct warred with the quiet farmer's life he had been building for the past 3 seasons. The orc maiden collapsed at the edge of his property, her green skin slick with sweat and what looked like rain, though the sky had been clear all day. She did not rise again. Petra set down his axe carefully and approached with the caution of a man who had seen what orcs could do in battle. He had fought them along the northern border for 5 years before taking his discharge and claiming this frontier homestead. He knew their strength, their ferocity, their ruthlessness. Yet this one lay motionless in the grass, her breathing shallow and labored. When he knelt beside her, she flinched awake with a gasp, her amber eyes wild with pain and fear. She tried to scramble backward, but her body would not obey, and she let out a choked sound that might have been a curse in her own language. "Easy," Petra said, holding up his hands. "I am not going to hurt you." She stared at him with undisguised suspicion, her small tusks bared in what could have been a grimace or a threat. Up close, he could see she was younger than he had first thought, perhaps no more than 20 summers. Her dark hair was braided in complex patterns that had come partially undone, and her clothing was torn and stained. "Go away," she managed in thickly accented Common. "Leave me." "You are bleeding," Petra observed. Her hand was still pressed to her side, and blood had seeped through her tunic to drip onto the grass. "You need help." "No human help." She tried again to move, but pain lanced across her face and she fell back with a grunt. Petra looked toward his cabin, then back at the darkening forest. Whatever had driven her here, she could not have come far in this condition. If she had enemies pursuing her, they might arrive soon. If she had no enemies, she would die here in his field before morning. "I was a battlefield medic," he said. "Let me at least stop the bleeding." She laughed, a bitter sound. "Why? So you can collect bounty on Orc Head?" The accusation stung more than it should have. There were bounties in some of the settlements. He had never collected one, but she had no reason to believe that. "There is no bounty office for 2 days' ride," he said evenly. "And I do not collect bounties. But I am not going to let someone die in my field either. Call it a character flaw." For a long moment she studied his face, those amber eyes searching for deception. Finally, she gave a small, almost imperceptible nod. Working quickly, Petra helped her sit up enough to examine the wound. It was a deep gash along her ribs, clean-edged like a blade cut rather than a claw mark. She hissed when he pressed the edges together but did not pull away. "Can you walk?" he asked. "I walked here," she said through gritted teeth. "Can you walk to my cabin?" She looked at the rough wooden structure across the field, then nodded again. With his support, she managed to stand, though she leaned heavily against him. She was tall for a woman, nearly matching his own height, and her body was solid muscle beneath the blood-soaked clothing. They made slow progress across the field. Twice she stumbled and he had to catch her weight. By the time they reached the cabin door, her breathing was ragged and fresh blood had begun to seep through his makeshift bandaging. Inside, he guided her to his bed, the only bed, and she collapsed onto it without protest. That alone told him how badly she was hurt. He lit lamps and stoked the fire, then gathered his medical supplies. They were meager compared to what he had worked with in the army, but he had needle and thread, clean cloth, and a bottle of strong spirits that would serve to clean the wound. "This will hurt," he warned as he cut away her tunic. "Everything hurts," she replied, but there was dark humor in her voice. The wound was worse than he had hoped, but not as bad as he had feared. The blade had cut deep but had missed anything vital. He cleaned it as gently as he could, though she flinched and cursed in Orcish. When he began stitching, she gripped the bed frame so hard he heard the wood creak. "What is your name?" he asked, partly to distract her. She was silent for so long he thought she would not answer. Then, "Greka. I am Petra." "I know what you are," Greka said. "I can smell soldier on you. See it in how you move." He continued stitching. "I was a soldier. I am a farmer now. No one stops being soldier." There was truth in that, uncomfortable truth. He finished the last stitch and bandaged the wound with clean cloth. When he stepped back, she tried to sit up, but he put a hand on her shoulder. "You need rest. That wound will tear open if you move too much. Cannot stay." But her body was already betraying her, exhaustion pulling her down into the bed. "Where are you going?" "Anywhere." Her eyes were already closing. "Away." He wanted to ask more, who had cut her, why she was running, whether anyone would come looking, but she had already fallen into an uneasy sleep. Petra covered her with his good blanket and sat back in his chair, watching the rise and fall of her breathing. Outside, full dark had fallen. He should have been eating his supper, should have been securing the animals and checking the fences. Instead, he had an orc woman in his bed and no idea what the morning would bring. The night passed slowly. Greka thrashed in her sleep, muttering in Orcish, and twice he had to check that she had not torn her stitches. Near dawn, her fever broke and she fell into a deeper, quieter rest. Petra dozed in his chair and woke to find pale sunlight streaming through the window and Greka's amber eyes watching him. "You stayed," she said. It sounded like an accusation. "It is my cabin," he pointed out. She tried to sit up and winced. He moved to help, but she waved him off, managing it on her own through sheer stubbornness. The blanket fell away and she looked down at herself, at the bandaging, at her bare torso, at the borrowed shirt he had draped over her while she slept. "You did not." She could not seem to finish the question. "No," Petra said firmly. "I am not that kind of man." Some of the tension left her shoulders. She pulled the shirt on properly, though the movement made her grunt with pain. "Why help me? I told you. I do not let people die in my field. I am orc." "I noticed." She stared at him as if he were a puzzle she could not solve. "Humans hate orcs." "Some do," he acknowledged. "I have known orcs I hated. I have known humans I hated. I find it takes too much energy to hate everyone." Greka let out a startled sound that might have been a laugh. "You are strange human, so I have been told." He stood and moved to the fireplace where he had left porridge warming. "Are you hungry? Starving?" He filled 2 bowls and brought one to her. She took it warily, sniffed it, then began eating with single-minded focus. He ate his own more slowly, watching her. When she finished, she set the bowl aside and met his gaze. "I cannot pay you." "I did not ask for payment." "Everyone asks for payment." Her hand moved to her head, touching one of the curved horns that rose from her temples. They were beautiful, dark and smooth and ridged with growth rings. The right one was slightly longer than the left. "Are you in debt?" he asked. "Is that why you are running?" "Debt, yes." She touched her horn again and he saw her jaw tighten. "I owe someone, many someones. But I will not pay what they demand." He wanted to ask what they demanded, but the haunted look in her eyes stopped him. "You can stay here until you are healed enough to travel," he said instead. "No debt, no payment. Nothing is free. Consider it payment for the entertainment," he said dryly. "It gets lonely out here." This time she definitely laughed, though it was a small, rusty sound as if she were out of practice. "You want orc woman as entertainment." "I want another living soul to talk to," he corrected. "Even if that soul is stubborn as a mule and twice as mean." "I am not mean." "You bared your tusks at me." "That is polite by orc standards." They looked at each other and something shifted in the air between them, not trust, not yet, but the possibility of it, Over the following days, a tentative routine developed. Greka remained in the bed for the first 2 days, too weak to do more than sleep and eat the meals Petra brought her. He tended his fields and animals, splitting wood and mending fences and doing all the endless work that homesteading required. In the evenings, he would sit by the fire and tell her about his day, about the fox that had tried to raid his chicken coop or the strange mushrooms growing by the creek. She mostly listened, offering occasional dry comments that suggested she was paying more attention than her closed eyes indicated. On the 3rd day, he returned from checking his snares to find her standing by the window, one hand braced against the wall for support. "You should be resting," he said. "I have rested enough." But she was pale beneath her green skin, and when she moved back to the bed she was limping. "Your ribs need time to knit," he said, setting down the rabbits he had caught. "A week at least." "I do not have a week. Are they hunting you?" "The ones you owe," her expression shuddered. "Maybe, probably not yet, but they will notice I am gone." "Who are they?" For a long moment he thought she would not answer. Then, "My clan, my family." That surprised him. He had assumed she was fleeing enemies, raiders, perhaps slavers. "Not her own people. They hurt you," he said carefully. "They want to give me to chieftain of another clan, to seal alliance." Her hand drifted to her side where the wound was healing. "I said no. They said I have no choice. We fought. I left. They cut you for refusing a marriage." "My brother cut me to stop me from leaving." Her voice was flat, emotionless. "He did not cut deep enough." Petra felt anger kindle in his chest, hot and familiar. He had seen this before in the army, women treated as property, as bargaining chips. He had hated it then and he hated it now. "You were right to leave," he said. She looked at him sharply. "You do not know that. You do not know what I left behind, what I lost. Do you want to go back? No. Then you were right to leave." Greka studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Maybe you are not so strange after all." On the 4th day, she insisted on helping with the work. Petra tried to argue, but she was immovable as stone, so he relented and gave her simple tasks: shelling beans, mending torn clothes, feeding the chickens. She moved carefully, favoring her injured side, but there was determination in every line of her body. That evening, as they sat by the fire eating their supper, she asked him about his life before the farm. He told her about growing up in a small town to the south, about joining the army at 16 when his parents died and he had no other prospects, about the years of fighting along the northern border. "Did you kill many orcs?" she asked bluntly. "Yes." There was no point in lying. "Do you regret it?" He considered the question seriously. "I regret the war. I regret the waste of it, all those lives spent for territory that neither side truly needed. But in the moment when it was kill or be killed, I did what I had to do. We all did." "My father fought in those wars," Greka said quietly. "He said the same thing, that it was waste, that both sides lost more than they gained." "Your father sounds like a wise man." "He was. He died 2 summers ago." "I am sorry," she nodded acknowledgement. "He would have liked you, I think. He believed orcs and humans could live in peace if enough people on both sides wanted it. My mother said he was fool, but he was good fool." They fell into companionable silence, the fire crackling between them. Outside, an owl called, hunting in the darkness. By the end of the first week, Greka was moving almost normally, though she still tired easily. Petra had grown accustomed to having her there, to the sound of her voice and the way she hummed orcish songs while she worked. The cabin felt less empty, less lonely. He tried not to think about what it would be like when she left. On the 8th day, she asked to see his fields. They walked together through the rows of wheat and barley, past the vegetable garden and the small orchard he had been coaxing into growth. She asked intelligent questions about crop rotation and soil quality, revealing a knowledge of farming that surprised him. "My clan grows food," she explained. "Before I was promised to chieftain, I worked the fields. I am good at it." "You could stay," Petra said, the words escaping before he could think better of them. "Help me work the land. I could use another pair of hands and you need somewhere safe." Greka stopped walking and looked at him, her expression unreadable. "You would let orc woman stay on your land?" "You are not just an orc woman, you are Greka, and yes, I would. Other humans would not understand. The nearest neighbor is half a day's ride. I do not see them often. They will see me eventually. They will talk. Let them talk." She shook her head slowly. "You do not know what you are offering, the trouble it would bring." "Maybe not," he admitted, "but the offer stands, for as long as you want it." She looked away toward the distant mountains visible above the tree line. "I need to think." That night, Petra woke to find her standing by the door, fully dressed, her few belongings wrapped in a bundle. His heart sank. "You are leaving." "I should. It is not safe for you if I stay." He sat up, rubbing sleep from his eyes. "Not safe how? If my clan finds me, there will be trouble. If other humans see me here, there will be trouble. You have been kind, Petra Quinn. I do not want to repay kindness with trouble. What if I am willing to risk trouble?" "Why?" She turned to face him, frustration and confusion warring in her expression. "Why would you risk anything for me?" "You do not know me. You owe me nothing." "You are right," he said. "I do not know you well and I owe you nothing. But I know you work hard and you tell the truth and you make me laugh. I know this place is better with you in it than without. Is that not enough reason?" "No, that is stupid reason." "Probably." He stood and crossed to where she stood. "But I am asking you to stay anyway, not as a debt, not as payment, just because I want you to." She looked down at the bundle in her hands at the door at him. "I cannot give you anything in return. I am not asking you to." "Humans always want something." "Then I am a strange human," he said, echoing her words from days ago. Her hands tightened on the bundle. Then slowly she set it down. "One more week," she said. "I will stay one more week, to make sure wound is fully healed." They both knew it was an excuse, but Petra nodded solemnly. One more week. The week passed quickly. They fell into an easy rhythm of shared labor, Petra working the fields while Greka tended the garden and the animals, both of them coming together for meals and evening conversation. She taught him words in Orcish, and he taught her to read Common, tracing letters in the dirt outside the cabin. She was a quick student, proud and frustrated by turns when she made mistakes. On the 13th day, a storm rolled in from the mountains, bringing heavy rain and wind that rattled the cabin's shutters. They stayed inside, Petra mending tools while Greka worked on a shirt she was sewing from spare cloth. The domesticity of it struck him suddenly. This could be his life if she stayed. Not lonely silence, but shared warmth, shared work, shared existence. "The week is nearly over," Greka said, as if reading his thoughts. "Yes. You still want me to stay?" "Yes." She set down her sewing and looked at him directly. "Why? Tell me true reason." Petra put aside the axe handle he had been smoothing and met her gaze. "Because you make me want to be a better man. Because I like who I am when you are here. Because this place was just shelter before, but with you it feels like home." She drew in a sharp breath. "That is a dangerous thing to say, I know. I am orc, you are human, this cannot work." "Why not?" "Because," she gestured helplessly, "because no one will accept it. Because my people will hate me more than they already do. Because your people will drive you out. Because we are too different." "We are both farmers who hate waste and love growing things," Petra said. "We both lost our fathers and carry scars from wars we did not start. We both chose this frontier because we wanted peace. How are we different where it matters? I have tusks," she said wildly, "and horns, and green skin." I noticed. Do you find me ugly because I do not? No, you are, she stopped, flushing darker green. That is not the point. What is the point? The point is that this is impossible. But do you want it? He moved closer, close enough to see the flecks of gold in her amber eyes. Forget what is possible or impossible. Do you want to stay? For a long moment she said nothing, her breathing unsteady. Then, yes. Spirits help me, yes. Then stay. You make it sound simple, maybe it is. Maybe we are the ones making it complicated, she laughed, a sound caught between tears and joy. You are definitely strange human. And you are stubborn orc. We will figure the rest out as we go. This time when she reached for her belongings, it was to unpack them properly, putting her few possessions on the shelf he cleared for her. They did not speak of it again that night, but something had been settled between them, a decision made. The seasons turned. Summer ripened into autumn, and together they brought in the harvest wheat and barley, vegetables and apples, more than Petra had managed alone in previous years. They worked side by side in comfortable silence or easy conversation, and in the evenings they would sit by the fire and share stories of their different childhoods. It was Greka who suggested they build a second room onto the cabin, pointing out that the bed situation was becoming awkward. Petra agreed, though he found himself reluctant to sleep separately. They had grown accustomed to sharing space, to the sound of each other's breathing in the darkness. They were halfway through the construction when the first visitor arrived. Petra was on the roof, securing shingles, when Greka called out a warning. He looked up to see a rider approaching a human man on a sturdy mare, wearing the practical clothes of a farmer. Petra recognized him as Marcus Quill, whose homestead was half a day north. "Stay calm," Petra said quietly to Greka. "Let me handle this." But Greka had already retreated toward the cabin, her hand pressed to her side where the scar still pulled. Marcus dismounted and raised a hand in greeting, his expression carefully neutral. "Petra," he said. "I was passing by, thought I would check in." "Marcus, you are a long way from home." "Heard a rumor in the settlement," Marcus said, his eyes drifting to where Greka stood half hidden in the doorway. "Wanted to see if it was true." "What rumor?" "That you are keeping an orc." The word stung, though Petra kept his expression calm. "Greka is not kept. She lives here. Lives here." Marcus' jaw tightened. "You know what people will say." "I imagine they will say many things, most of them wrong." "This is dangerous, Petra. The frontier is still unstable." "If word spreads that you are harboring orcs, I am not harboring anyone. Greka is my friend and my partner in working this land. That is all anyone needs to know." Marcus looked at him for a long moment, then at Greka. "Does she speak common?" "I speak," Greka said, stepping fully into view. "I work, I farm, I hurt no one." "Your people killed 6 settlers last spring," Marcus said. "Burned out the Morrison homestead." "Those were raiders from the eastern tribes," Greka replied evenly. "Not my clan, but I am sorry for your losses. War makes monsters of everyone." Marcus seemed taken aback by her directness. He looked between them, clearly struggling with something. Finally, he sighed. "I came to warn you," he said. "Some of the other settlers are talking about riding out here. They are afraid of what it means, having an orc so close to their lands." "When?" Petra asked, his hand drifting to the knife at his belt. "Soon. Maybe a few days." Marcus mounted his horse. "I do not agree with them for what it is worth. You have always been a good neighbor, Petra, but be careful." He rode away, leaving them standing in tense silence. Greka was the first to speak. "I should go." "No. They will hurt you because of me." "They will try to hurt you," Petra corrected, "and I will not allow that. You cannot fight all of them." "Then we will talk to them, make them understand." Greka shook her head. "You cannot make humans understand what they do not want to understand. I have learned this. We have to try." She looked at him, her eyes full of pain and resignation. Why? Why is this so important to you? Because I love you, Petra thought, the realization hitting him like a physical blow. But he could not say that, not now, not like this. So instead he said, because it is right, because you deserve safety and respect, because this is your home now and I will defend it. Something flickered in her expression, surprise, hope, fear. You are going to get yourself killed. Probably not. I am surprisingly hard to kill. This is not joke. I know. He moved closer, taking her hand carefully. But I am not joking. I will not let them drive you away, not without a fight. She looked down at their joined hands, her green fingers against his pale ones. I am not worth this. Let me decide what you are worth to me. They stood like that for a long moment, the autumn wind moving around them, carrying the scent of harvested fields and coming winter. Then Greka nodded once, sharp. If we do this, we do it together. I will not hide while you face them. Together, Petra agreed. They spent the next 2 days preparing. Petra sharpened his sword and checked his old armor, hoping he would not need either but determined to be ready. Greka fashioned a sturdy staff from an oak branch and practiced with it in the yard, her movements revealing combat training he had not known she possessed. On the 3rd day they came. There were 8 of them, all men, all armed. Petra recognized most of them from his occasional trips to the settlement, farmers and trappers, ordinary people made afraid by rumor and prejudice. They reined up at the edge of his property, their leader a big man named Thomas Quillen. Petra Quinn, Thomas called out. We need to talk. Petra stepped out of the cabin, Greka at his side. Then talk. Not with that creature standing there. Her name is Greka and she stays. Say what you came to say. Thomas dismounted, several others following suit. We are here to remove the orc from frontier lands. She is a danger to all of us. She has been here for 3 months, Petra said calmly. Has she endangered anyone in that time? That is not the point. Then what is the point? She is an orc, one of the other men shouted. They cannot be trusted, they are animals. Greka stiffened beside him, but her voice was level when she spoke. I am here. You may insult me to my face if you wish. We are not here to talk to you, Thomas said. We are here to run you off. You will have to go through me, Petra said, his hand resting on his sword hilt. Do not be a fool, Thomas said. We do not want to hurt you, but we will if we must, for the safety of the settlement. The settlement is half a day's ride from here. Greka has never gone near it. She works my fields and bothers no one. What threat does she pose? Her clan could use her as a scout. She could be reporting our numbers, our defenses. To who? Greka demanded. I am cast out from my clan. I have no people anymore. This, she gestured at the homestead, is all I have. Lies, another man spat. Orcs always lie. Do I? Greka's voice turned hard. Then let me tell you truth. My clan wanted to sell me like cattle to make alliance. When I refused, my own brother cut me to stop my escape. I nearly died in these fields before Petra found me and saved my life, expecting nothing in return. He gave me shelter, food, safety. He treated me like person when my own family would not. So yes, I am loyal to him. Yes, I would defend this place. Not because I am scout or spy, but because for first time in my life someone saw me as more than tool to be used. The men shifted uncomfortably, some of their certainty wavering. Thomas, however, remained unmoved. A touching story, he said, but it changes nothing. You cannot be here. This is my land, Petra said. Deeded and registered. Who I allow on it is my business, not yours. We will make it our business. Try. The tension stretched taut as a bowstring. Petra could see the men calculating odds, weighing their conviction against the reality of violence. He was one man, but he was a veteran, trained and dangerous. They would win eventually through numbers, but some of them would bleed for it. It was Greka who broke the standoff. She moved forward suddenly, reaching up to grasp her right horn, the longer one. Before Petra could understand what she was doing, she twisted hard, her face contorting with pain. There was a sickening crack, and the horn broke off in her hand. Greka gasped, blood running down the side of her face from where the horn had torn away. She held it out to Thomas with a shaking hand. "Here," she said, her voice rough with pain. "Orc horns are valuable, yes. Worth gold in southern markets. Take it. Payment for being allowed to stay. That is what you want, yes. Payment?" Thomas stared at the offered horn, looking disturbed. The other men muttered among themselves, clearly not having expected this. Petra moved without thinking. He stepped forward and closed Greka's hand around the broken horn, his fingers gentle despite the fury burning through him. "Keep it," he said quietly, but his voice carried. "You do not pay them. You do not pay anyone. You have the right to exist without offering pieces of yourself in exchange." Greka looked up at him, her eyes bright with tears and pain. "But no." He turned to face the men, placing himself between them and Greka. "You should be ashamed, all of you. You came here talking about safety and protection, but what you really want is to feel powerful. To have someone you can push around because you are afraid of things you do not understand." "You do not know what you are talking about," Thomas said, but he sounded less certain. "I know exactly what I am talking about. I fought in the wars, same as some of you. I killed orcs and watched friends die. I have more reason than most to hate, but I chose to stop hating because it was eating me alive. Greka is not your enemy. Fear is." "Pretty words," Thomas said, "but words will not protect us if her clan comes. Her clan does not want her. She told you that." Petra's voice hardened. "But I will tell you what will happen if you try to remove her. You will have to kill me first. And then you will have to live with the knowledge that you murdered a fellow settler to satisfy your prejudice. Is that what you want?" The men exchanged glances. One by one, their certainty crumbled. "This is not over," Thomas said finally, but it was the protest of a man who had already lost. "We will be watching." "Watch all you like," Petra said. "You will see two people working the land and hurting no one." The men mounted and rode away, though some looked back with expressions that might have been shame. When they were gone, Petra turned to find Greka sitting on the ground, still clutching her broken horn, blood running down her face. "Spirits," he breathed, kneeling beside her. "Why did you do that?" "Thought it would work." Her laugh was pained. "Thought if I gave them something valuable they would leave. Stupid. Not stupid. Brave and desperate and heartbreaking, but not stupid." He examined the wound carefully. The horn had broken close to the base, leaving a jagged stump. "This needs to be cleaned and bandaged." "It will not grow back," she said dully. "Horns do not. I am broken now." "You are hurt, not broken. There is a difference." He helped her stand and guided her inside, settling her in the chair by the fire. As he cleaned the wound and wrapped it in cloth, she stared at the horn in her lap. "I thought if I gave payment you would be safe," she said quietly. "I thought that is what humans want, payment for everything. Some humans, maybe, not me." He finished bandaging and sat back. "I told you before you do not owe me anything. Not your horn, not your work, not yourself. You are here because I want you here, that is all. But I have nothing else to give. Greka." He took her hand, the one not holding the horn. "You give me your company, your laughter, your stories. You make this place feel alive instead of just existing. Do you think that is nothing?" She looked at him, really looked, and something in her expression shifted. "You closed my hand," she said wonderingly. "I offered payment and you closed my hand and told me to keep it." "Yes." "In orc culture that means," she stopped, her eyes widening. "Means what?" "It means you claim me, not as property but as," she struggled for the word, "as treasured one, as someone whose value is not in what they give but in who they are." Petra's heart was pounding. "Is that what I did?" "Yes, maybe you did not know, but yes." She set the horn aside carefully and turned to fully face him. "Petra Quinn, do you understand what you have done? I think," he said slowly. "I have told you that you matter to me, that you are precious beyond any payment. Is that close?" "Yes." Her voice was barely a whisper. "But if you say such things, you must mean them. Orcs do not take such gestures lightly." "I mean them." The words came easily because they were true. "I mean them with everything I am." Greka closed her eyes, a tear running down her green cheek to mix with the blood. "I am yours, then, if you will have me, not as payment or debt, but as partner, as mate." The Orcish word for mate was not quite the same as the human word for wife, but it was close enough. Petra felt something slot into place in his chest, a rightness he had not known he was looking for. "And I am yours," he said. "If you will have me," she laughed, the sound wet with tears but genuine. "Strange human, my strange human." "You're strange human," he agreed. She leaned forward and kissed him, her small tusks bumping his chin, her lips warm and alive. He kissed her back carefully, mindful of her injuries, and felt her smile against his mouth. When they finally pulled apart, she was still smiling despite the pain she must be feeling. "This will be difficult," she warned. "Those men will talk. Others will come. Let them come. We will face them together. My clan may come too, eventually. Then we will face them as well." She shook her head, but she was still smiling. "You should be more afraid." "I am terrified," he admitted, "but I am more afraid of losing this, of losing you." Greka picked up her broken horn and looked at it thoughtfully. "I will keep this," she said, "to remember the day someone told me I was worth more than what I could give." "You are worth everything," Petra said. She set the horn on the mantel where it would catch the firelight. "We should finish the second room." "Do we still need a second room?" She flushed darker green. "Perhaps not, but we will need space when," she stopped, looking suddenly shy. "When what? When we have children. Someday. If you want them." Petra had not thought that far ahead, but now that she said it, he could picture it: green-skinned children with his eyes or her strength, growing up on this frontier homestead, learning to farm and fight and live free. "I want them," he said. "With you." They spent the rest of the day quietly, Greka resting while Petra worked on the addition. But there was a new lightness to their existence, a sense of future where before there had only been day-to-day survival. That night they lay together in the bed they now openly shared, her head on his chest, his fingers tracing the bandage where her horn had been. "Does it hurt?" he asked. "Yes, but pain fades. This," she gestured between them, "is worth any pain." He kissed the top of her head, breathing in the scent of her earth and smoke and something uniquely hers. "I love you," he said, because he had not said it yet and it needed to be said. She raised her head to look at him, her amber eyes luminous in the darkness. "I love you too. My treasure. My human. My home." The word home resonated in the space between them. Not a place but a person, a feeling, a choice made and remade every day. Winter came early that year, bringing snow that blanketed the frontier in white silence. Petra and Greka worked together to prepare stocking the root cellar, securing the animals in their reinforced shelter, gathering firewood. The addition was finished just before the first major storm, giving them space to spread out, though they still slept in the original room, preferring the closeness. On the darkest night of winter, there was a knock at the door. Petra answered with his sword in hand, but it was only Marcus Quill, half frozen and leading a limping horse. "Can I come in?" Marcus asked through chattering teeth. They brought him inside, gave him hot soup and blankets, tended his horse. When he had warmed enough to speak clearly, he explained. "Raiders hit my place 2 days ago, burned half my barn, stole livestock. I rode for the settlement but got caught in the storm." He looked at Greka, then at Petra. "I know I am not welcome after what happened, but yours was the closest place. You are welcome, Greka said firmly. You came to warn us before. That was kindness. We do not forget kindness. Marcus looked surprised, then grateful. The raiders, they were orcs. From the eastern tribes, like you said. I thought you should know. The settlement is organizing a militia. Against all orcs or just the raiders? Petra asked. Just the raiders as far as I know, but Thomas is pushing for a full clearing of the frontier. He wants all orcs driven out. Greka and Petra exchanged glances. We will deal with that when it comes, Petra said. For now, you rest. The storm should clear by morning. Marcus stayed for 3 days while the storm raged outside. In that time, something shifted. He saw how Greka and Petra worked together, the easy partnership and obvious affection between them. He saw Greka's skill with animals and plants, her dry humor, her intelligence. By the time he left, riding a horse that Greka had treated with poultices that stopped its limping, he was thoughtful. I was wrong about you, he said to Greka as he prepared to leave. About what you are, I am sorry. You came to warn us, Greka replied. You sought shelter and we gave it. Past is past. After he left, Petra asked, do you think he meant it? Maybe, maybe not. But he has one voice against Thomas. That is something. Spring came slowly, the snow melting to reveal the sleeping land beneath. Petra and Greka began preparing the fields for planting, planning a larger harvest now that there were 2 of them working full-time. They were in the barn, discussing which fields to rotate when they heard horses, many horses. They emerged to find not a hostile group, but something stranger, a mixture of human settlers and orcs, perhaps 20 in total, led by Marcus Quill and an older orc woman with silver-streaked hair. Petra, Greka, Marcus called out. We come in peace, to talk. The orc woman dismounted with the stiffness of age and studied Greka intently. You are Greka, daughter of Grok. I am. Greka's voice was wary. Who are you? I am Shara, shaman of the western tribes. Your mother sent me to find you. Greka tensed. My mother cast me out. Your mother has regretted that every day since. Your brother too, he carries great shame for what he did. Shara's gaze drifted to Greka's missing horn and sadness crossed her face. They wish you to return. No. Will you not hear? No. Greka moved closer to Petra, taking his hand. My home is here. My mate is here. I will not go back to people who valued alliance over my choice. Shara looked at their joined hands, then at Petra. You are the human she has chosen. I am, Petra said, and she has chosen me. This is unusual, difficult. We know, Greka said. We do not care. Shara was quiet for a long moment. Then, to everyone's surprise, she smiled. Good. The world needs more difficult choices and fewer easy cruelties. She turned to address the assembled group. Some of you know me, some know my reputation. I am shaman, healer, and truth seer. I have been working with Marcus and others to build understanding between our peoples. The raids have hurt both sides, orc clans and human settlements. We believe there is another way. Marcus stepped forward. After staying here, seeing how Petra and Greka live together, I realized something. We have been fighting each other when we should be fighting the real enemies, the raiders who prey on both our peoples, the land barons who want to drive us all out, the greed and fear that keep us divided. What are you proposing? Petra asked. A truce? An alliance? Marcus gestured to the mixed group. These orcs are from clans that want peace. These humans are settlers who want to farm, not fight. Together we are stronger. We can defend our lands and build something better. And you want us to be part of this? Greka asked. We want you to be the proof that it can work, Shara said. You have already done the hardest thing, chosen each other across the divide. Let others see that it is possible. Petra looked at Greka, seeing his own cautious hope reflected in her eyes. What do you think? I think it is risky. I think many will still hate us. I think it will be hard. She squeezed his hand. But I also think it is right. If we can help build peace, we should." They agreed, and over the following weeks their homestead became a gathering place. Orcs and humans met there to discuss boundaries and trade, to share knowledge of farming and hunting, to slowly, carefully build trust. It was not easy. Old hatreds ran deep, and there were arguments and setbacks. But Petra and Greka stood as living proof that cooperation was possible. Thomas Quillen came once, blustering about betrayal and danger. But he left quietly when confronted by the united front of both orc clans and human settlers, his influence broken. As spring turned to summer, Greka's clan sent an envoy, her younger sister, barely grown, with a message. Their mother was dying and wished to see Greka one last time. Greka was torn. Petra told her he would support whatever she chose, but privately he feared she would not return if she left. She had every reason to hate her family, to refuse this last request. In the end, it was Shara who counseled her. "Go," the old shaman said, "not for them but for yourself, so you will have no regrets." They rode out together, Petra and Greka, traveling 5 days into the mountains to reach her clan's territory. The reception was cold at first. Orc warriors watching Petra with undisguised hostility, muttering about the human who had stolen one of their women. But Greka's mother, lying weak in her bed, wept when she saw her daughter. "I am sorry," she whispered in Orcish. "I am so sorry." Greka knelt beside the bed, her remaining horn catching the firelight. "I know." They spoke for a long time in their own language while Petra waited outside. When Greka emerged, she was crying, but it was the clean tears of closure rather than open wounds. Her brother was waiting, a huge orc warrior with scars on his arms and shame in his eyes. He dropped to his knees before Greka and held out his own horn, broken off at the base. "I took yours," he said in halting common, "so I give mine. Fair is fair." Greka stared at him, then at the horn, then began to laugh through her tears. "You are idiot. Horns do not balance like trade goods. I know, but I am trying to say I am sorry. I do not know how else." She pulled him to his feet and embraced him roughly. "You are still idiot. But you are my brother. I forgive you." They stayed 3 days, long enough for Greka's mother to die peacefully, knowing her daughter had found happiness. At the funeral rite, Greka placed her broken horn on the pyre alongside her mother, a gesture of release and closure. Her brother gave her his in return, not as payment but as remembrance. On the ride back, Greka was quiet. Petra let her be, understanding she needed time to process. But that night, as they camped beneath the stars, she finally spoke. "I am glad we went. I am glad I said goodbye." She turned to look at him. "But I am gladder to be going home. To you, to us," he corrected. "To us," she agreed. They returned to find their homestead thriving. The alliance had grown stronger in their absence, with more settlers and orc clans joining. Marcus had taken a leadership role, working with Shara to mediate disputes and organize defenses against the eastern raiders. Summer brought a good harvest, and autumn brought news Greka was pregnant. They had known it was possible, had hoped for it even, but the reality was both thrilling and terrifying. Half-orc children were rare, and neither of them knew what to expect. Shara visited often, bringing herbs and wisdom, assuring them that while such pregnancies could be difficult, Greka was strong and healthy. Winter came again, and with it, labor. It lasted through the night and into the morning, Greka's roars of pain echoing through the cabin while Petra held her hand and felt utterly helpless. But when the midwife, a human woman named Diane Walsh, who had trained with orc healers, finally placed the baby in Greka's arms, all the fear vanished. She was perfect, tiny and squalling, with skin the color of new leaves and her father's brown eyes. Small tusks already budded in her gums, and when she grasped Petra's finger, he felt his heart crack open with love. "She is beautiful," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "She is ours," Greka replied, tears streaming down her face. "Our daughter." They named her Petra, using the feminine form of his name with Greka's mother's name as her second Petra Quinn. She would grow up on the frontier, learning both human and orc ways, speaking both languages, a living bridge between two peoples. As Petra held his daughter and watched his mate, his wife in all but formal ceremony, smile down at their child, he thought about how far they had come. From that first desperate meeting in the field to this moment of perfect joy, it had been a journey of pain and healing, fear and courage, hatred overcome by love. Marcus and Shara came to visit when the baby was a week old, bringing gifts from both the settlement and the orc clans. "She is hope," Shara said, touching the baby's tiny hand. "Hope that our peoples can truly become one." That spring, they held the first formal gathering of what they were calling the Frontier Alliance representatives from 6 human settlements and 4 orc clans. It was held on Petra and Greka's land, in a large structure they had built together over the winter, designed to accommodate both human and orc customs. Petra stood before the assembly with Greka at his side and their daughter in his arms, speaking about cooperation and mutual defense, about shared resources and shared futures. But more than his words, it was the sight of them together, human and orc, husband and wife, parents of a child who represented the future, that moved the gathered crowd. The alliance was formalized that day, with agreements on boundaries and trade, on justice and defense. It was not perfect, and it would take years of work to truly knit the communities together. But it was a beginning. As the gathering dispersed, and the sun set over the frontier, Petra and Greka stood in their field watching little Petra toddle through the grass, chasing butterflies with determined concentration. "You ever regret it?" Greka asked quietly, "taking me in that first day?" "All the trouble it brought." Petra looked at her, at the scar where her horn had been, at the laugh lines forming around her eyes, at the strength and love and fierce determination that defined her. He looked at their daughter, at the home they had built, at the future they were shaping. "Not for a single moment," he said. She smiled and leaned against him, comfortable and content. "Good, because you are stuck with me now, orcs mate for life." "So do I," he replied. They stood together as the stars began to emerge, two people who had found each other across impossible divides and chosen to build something beautiful. The frontier stretched around them, wild and dangerous and full of potential, but they had faced it together and won. And they would keep facing it, keep winning for all the years to come. Little Petra squealed with delight, having finally caught a butterfly. She brought it to show her parents, her small face alight with wonder, and they knelt together to admire it before helping her release it back into the evening air. This was their life now, small moments of joy, hard work, the building of community and family. This was what Greka had offered everything for, what Petra had defended against all threats. This was worth more than any payment, more valuable than any treasure. This was home. The seasons continued their endless cycle. Petra grew from baby to toddler to young child, bright and curious and strong. She learned to work the fields alongside her parents, to speak Common and Orcish with equal fluency, to navigate between the human and orc communities that increasingly mingled in the frontier region. More children were born to mixed couples, encouraged by Petra and Greka's example. The Frontier Alliance strengthened, building a network of mutual support that protected all its members. Raiders, both human and orc, found it increasingly difficult to operate as communities banded together for defense. On Petra Mora's 5th birthday, They held a celebration that drew families from throughout the region. Human and orc children played together while their parents traded stories and goods. The divisions that had once seemed insurmountable now reduced to interesting cultural differences to be navigated rather than walls to maintain. Greka was pregnant again, heavy with twins this time. Petra fretted over her constantly, making her laugh with his overprotectiveness. "I am orc," she reminded him. "We are not fragile." "You are my orc," he replied, "and I will fret if I want to." She kissed him fondly. "Fret away then, but know that I am fine, better than fine." It was true. In the 6 years since she had stumbled into his field, bleeding and desperate, she had blossomed. Her missing horn had become a badge of honor, a reminder of the day she had tried to buy safety with pieces of herself, and learned instead that she was worthy of being treasured whole. The twins' boys this time, named Philip and Patrick Quinn, were born healthy and loud in late autumn. They had their mother's green skin and their father's quick smile, and Petra Mora immediately appointed herself their protector and teacher. As winter settled over the frontier once more, Petra stood in their field looking at all they had built. The cabin had been expanded several times now, growing to accommodate their family. The barn was sturdy and full of healthy animals. The fields, lying fallow for winter, would produce abundant crops come spring. But more than the physical prosperity, it was the peace that struck him. The knowledge that they were safe, accepted, part of a community that valued them not despite their differences but including them. Greka came to stand beside him, bundling them both in a thick cloak against the cold. "What are you thinking?" she asked. "I am thinking about that first night," he said, "when I found you in the field. If I had known everything that would follow the confrontations, the fear, the struggle, I wonder if I would have been brave enough to do it. And I am glad I did not know. I am glad I just saw someone who needed help and helped them. Everything else followed from that one simple choice." "Not so simple," Greka said. "You risked everything." "I gained everything." He pulled her closer. "You, our children, this life, how could I regret that?" She was quiet for a moment, then said, "I brought you something." She pulled from her pocket the horn her brother had given her. She had kept it all these years, treasuring it as a symbol of reconciliation. "I want you to have this, to remember that broken things can be made whole, that what we lose can be returned to us in new forms." Petra took the horn carefully, feeling its weight. "Are you sure?" "Yes, because you taught me that I am more than what I can give, so this is not payment, it is gift, freely given as you have given me freedom and love and home." He kissed her then, deep and long, tasting the salt of happy tears on her lips. Inside, they could hear Petra Mora singing to her baby brothers, her voice sweet and young. The fire crackled in the hearth, warming the space they had made together. Outside, the wind blew cold, but they were warm and safe and surrounded by love. This was not the end of their story. There would be more challenges, more children, more years of building the alliance and defending their home. But this moment was perfect, complete in itself. Greka had offered herself as payment, breaking off a piece of her body to buy the right to exist. Petra had closed her hand and told her to keep it, showing her that she was valuable beyond measure, worthy of love not for what she could give but for who she was. From that single gesture of recognition and respect, a life had grown. A family, a community, a future. And every day, in small ways and large, they continued to choose each other, continued to build on the foundation of that first act of seeing another person's humanity, their personhood, and responding with compassion instead of fear. This was their legacy, far more valuable than land or gold. This was what they would pass to their children, and their children's children, the knowledge that love could bridge any divide, that choosing kindness over hatred could change the world, As they turned to go inside, back to the warmth and light and family waiting there, Greka paused. "Thank you," she said softly. "For what? For seeing me. For keeping my hand closed. For showing me I was worth more than what I could give." She smiled, her remaining tusk catching the last light. "For being my home. Always," Petra promised. "For as long as I live." They went inside together, closing the door on the winter night. But they had built warmth that could withstand any cold, love that could outlast any darkness. They had found each other across impossible divides and chosen to create something new and beautiful. And in doing so, they had changed not just their own lives, but the entire frontier, proving that the future could be different from the past, that old hatreds could give way to new hope, that two people from different worlds could build a bridge strong enough for others to follow. This was their story. This was their triumph. This was their happily ever after earned through courage and compassion, built one choice at a time, one day at a time, one act of love at a time. And it was more than enough. It was everything.